PJNET Live, you are part of the Cruz Crew live hashtag rally here on PJNET. And we are very fortunate, as we often are, it seems. The harder we work, the harder you work. The more we work together, the luckier we get. And folks, tonight, many of you have been anticipating this moment that we're going to spend with Trevor Loudon. Now, Trevor has spoken to a few people before. This is not his first rodeo. In fact, he's spoken to some 400 groups in some 40 states, and he has had numerous media appearances. Now, we put Trevor's Twitter page in the chat earlier, so I hope that you have followed him on Twitter. And we're anxious to hear what Trevor has to say because, Trevor, you've taken a particular interest in the Cruz campaign. Now, you've been a conservative activist for some time, but you describe yourself as a libertarian, but you've hitched up with the Cruz campaign. What's up with that?
Well, look, in New Zealand, I'm from New Zealand. I'm living in the States now. I'm a permanent resident and married to an American. But in New Zealand, I call myself a libertarian because that was a lot more respectable over there. The libertarian in New Zealand doesn't have the anti-military, anti-defense, and isolationist foreign policy connotations that it sometimes does have here. Over here, I'd more describe myself as a constitutional conservative. I think that's probably more accurate and what more Americans would relate to. But I've been My specialty is the radical left, exposing the Marxist movements. I was the guy who first connected Barack Obama to the Hawaiian communist Frank Marshall Davis. And
Wow.
I exposed Van Jones, the communist Green Job czar, who Glenn Beck used that information to get Van Jones kicked out of the White House. So I've been touring around the country talking to Tea Party Republican groups for more than 4 years now. Spoken to about 400 groups, I estimate. But I've been supporting Ted Cruz for over 2 years, way before he declared. And because I saw that the country needed a constitutionalist president, and I looked around all the options, and Ted Cruz was head and shoulders above the rest. You know, this is a guy who eats, lives, and breathes the Constitution. He's a hard-headed guy. He's tough as nails. He's straight and honest, and he's totally committed to restoring America, to restoring the Constitution. So I got behind Ted Cruz early, and I have never regretted it. I've been in Iowa for the last 6 months. We're working on a documentary movie, basically exposing the Marxists in Congress. And I've been following the Cruz campaign here in Iowa. I've spent an hour on the stage interviewing Senator Cruz. I've met him several times. I've been on stage several times and spent a lot of time with his father, Raphael, as well. And I say, you, as Ted often says, by your fruit shall you know them. And if you know Raphael and you know his fruit, Ted, you know that he has borne great fruit in Ted. The apple does not fall far from the tree, and Raphael is a great man, and so is his son. So that's sort of my background in a very short nutshell.
Well, before we get back to the Cruz campaign and Ted Cruz himself, you mentioned a documentary film that you're working on. Where did you get the notion? And tell us a little bit about this film. You're going to expose left-wing influence in Congress?
Yeah, well, look, this is the basic thesis. In 1995, the American AFL-CIO, the unions, were taken over by Democratic Socialists of America and the Communist Party USA. Now, these are groups that most Americans have never heard of. So they took over the AFL-CIO, they put their member John Sweeney in as president, they took over all the major labor unions, and they used that muscle to purge the Democratic Party of people they didn't like. They got rid of all the Southern conservatives, the moderate.
Blue Dogs.
Joe Lieberman, the senator from Connecticut, was one of the last ones to go, and now they own that party. So the thesis of the movie is that basically 10,000 card-carrying communists control the unions, and the unions control the Democratic Party, and they're writing the Democrats' policy. That's where Obamacare came from. That's where immigration amnesty comes from. That's why they're gutting the U.S. military. That's where normalization of relations with Cuba comes from. That's where the Iran deal comes from. All of those things started out as communist policy and are now the policies of the Democratic Party. And we say there's at least 100 members of the House and 20 members of the Senate who are so enmeshed in Marxism or radical Islam or both that they would not pass an FBI security clearance to work in the post office. yet they are, seriously, yet they are serving on the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the all the important committees. You know, like Andre Carson, for instance, who Nancy Pelosi put on the Intelligence Committee not long ago, the congressman from Indiana, a long-time affiliate of the Muslim Brotherhood, very, very heavily tied into the radical Islamic movement, and also very tied into Marxism. Yet this guy is overseeing 16 of America's main intelligence agencies and is guiding their direction. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The radical left took over the Democratic Party, they took over the unions, they've taken over the Democratic Party, and now you have basically got a Marxist Democrat Party ramming their agenda down your throat. And that's another reason I back Ted Cruz, because if you get another Rhino in, if you get a Marco Rubio in, he's still going to promote amnesty, and that amnesty is going to legalize 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 million illegals, and 80% of them are going to vote Democrat, and there will never be another Republican president ever. One-party state. And that is the danger of amnesty. That's why we cannot vote for Jeb Bush. We cannot vote for Marco Rubio. We have to support the conservative who has been most consistently opposed to amnesty, and that is, of course, Ted Cruz.
Trevor, you mentioned...
The documentary is going to be called The Enemies Within, by the way. Very straightforward title. It's going to be exposing the Marxists in Congress, naming their names, giving the evidence, and it's based on my 2013 book, The Enemies Within, Communists, Socialists, and Progressives in the U.S. Congress. And you can get that book on Amazon or Kindle or Nook. It's available out there. 700 pages long.
I was going to ask, what is the title of the movie, and when do you expect it to be available?
Well, we want to get it out, and the target date is late March, and we're really working hard to get it underway. We're in the editing stages right now, and that's why I'm in Iowa, because happily it coincided with the Iowa caucuses, but that's where the production house is, and that's where we're putting the movie together right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's go back to Ted Cruz. You have mentioned that he is the most consistently conservative, honest, forthright character, and we concur. But as of late, we are getting a outpour of accusation that he somehow lied, and it just it's relentless. In fact, the reason that we're doing this rally tonight, we don't normally have a Cruz Crew rally on Thursday nights. We do them on Monday nights, but we want to counter-program this message that's being pounded like a drum, that Ted Cruz lied, and I think that's been debunked. I believe it was Mark Levin that debunked it, but you know a little bit more, don't you?
Well, look, Mark posted. We posted. We did some research yesterday, and we went through Twitter, we went through a whole lot of evidence, we found out, we got to the bottom of the story, and basically the Rand Paul people used, there was a bogus CNN story. Rand Paul people picked up on it, the Marco Rubio people picked up on it, and the Ted Cruz people picked up on it, and they accepted it from face value, and they used that story. Ted is the only one that's come out and admitted, yes, we did use that story. It's perfectly legitimate to use the story. We perhaps should have checked the source first, but you know, he took it all on himself. He didn't blame the staff. He didn't blame anybody. The others all jumped on it and accused him of these dirty tricks. You know, and this includes Michael Rubio and the Rand Paul people, even though they were using it as well. So there's an article on my blog. If you go to trevorloudon.com, it's pretty Loudon, trevorloudon.com. The article is sort of off the main page right now, but it's Mark Levin posted it this morning on his Facebook, and it's had tens of thousands of hits, and I think this has helped to counteract this scam story to some degree. So if you go to my blog and scroll down, it's about the 10th article down right now, and I'm just trying to get the title of it for listeners. It's called Update, CNN not Cruz staff responsible for Ben Carson campaign suspension rumor. So go to my blog and about the 10th story down, CNN not Cruz staff responsible for Ben Carson's campaign suspension rumor, and that's been tweeted out all over. And as I say, Mark Levin posted it on this website, posted it on his Facebook this morning, and that is there's evidence there that people can use to counteract the smears against Senator Cruz. Just hang on a second, please, Mike.
Okay. It seems to me, while we're waiting...
Dana Lash tweeted it out as well, so it's got some pretty widespread coverage.
Well, that's good because at this point, I think it's... First of all, when I first heard of it, I thought this would be very uncharacteristic of Ted. Now, I realize that, you know, if you're in charge of a large staff, you can get some unguided missiles going off out, you know, and when that happens, you deal with it.
Look, Ted did nothing wrong, you know. A story came out of CNN right when the caucuses were going that really basically said that Ben Carson was dropping out. Now, any campaigner worth his salt would use that to try and get votes for your side. You know, we know that Rubio's crew did it. We know that Rand Paul's crew did it. I would have fired. If I was Ted Cruz and I found out one of my staffers had that story and did nothing with it, I would have fired them. You know?
Interesting point. Yeah.
Ted has got nothing to be ashamed of there at all. You know, given the heat of the moment and the timing, it would have been pretty hard to check it out. CNN was completely at fault for putting out a bogus story, and they have taken no responsibility for it and tried to shift the blame onto Ted Cruz. And the blame could have been equally shifted onto Marco Rubio or Rand Paul's people, and it wasn't.
Well, if they were leading, if they would have won Iowa, it would be.
Yeah, well, even maybe not, but they've got a particular hatred for Ted because they know that if Ted is the president, their days of influence are gone. You know, their agenda is over. So they understand. You know, like, you know, the greatest endorsement Ted got recently was the fact that Jimmy Carter would try to vote for Donald Trump because he knows that Donald Trump is malleable. He can be dealt with. He can be manipulated. They know that Ted Cruz will basically stay steady and rock fast to his agenda. They are so scared of him because they finally found a candidate that they cannot beat, and that is why. And it cannot be bought, cannot be compromised. And that is why the hatred is pouring out of their mouths, because they understand their days are numbered. If Ted Cruz gets the presidency, you know that people in Planned Parenthood are going to go to jail if Ted Cruz is the president. You know there's a whole lot of people in Washington who will probably also go to jail if Ted Cruz was president. You can understand why they're upset. You can understand why they're pouring out the hatred. Their future liberty depends on Ted Cruz staying out of the White House.
You got it. Well, Trevor, listen, you've got quite a story. In fact, stories plural, and I'm very interested in some of the things you mentioned in your upcoming movie, where you have rooted out some good stuff. And I wish we had more time tonight, but perhaps at a future time we could focus on them individually. You could give us a little preview.
So I'm happy to help in any way, because I understand. The purpose of your group is we're all in this fight to save the Constitution. This is not about Ted Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the Constitution.
Good point.
And you support Ted Cruz because he is the man who can restore it. And we're in a fight. We're in a fight for our lives. We're in a fight for our country. We're in a fight for Western civilization. And we get a lot of slings and arrows for that. And I understand that, you people have got to get together and help each other and encourage each other to carry on this fight. That's what we're here for. That's why I speak around the country for. So, look, I'm very happy to contribute in any way I can at any time. And believe me, I follow all around the country what the Ted Cruz supporters are doing. I follow the tweets. I follow the articles because we all need that encouragement. Because this is not an easy fight.
Well, Trevor, it is great to have you on board with the Cruz crew and with the Constitution, and thank you for sharing your time with us tonight.
Yeah, look, my pleasure, and thanks to everybody who's listening, and just thanks to everybody who's fighting for Ted, because it ain't easy, but it is the most worthwhile thing we can do in America right now. And in Inauguration Day in 2017, everything we do, everything we have to put up with is going to be so worth it.